This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Friday, October 4th, 2024, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Katie Jaeger of Syngenta. She works on the soybean seed care side of Syngenta, and she's going to tell us all about the new technology that they have going into a seed treatment that will help to deal with those early season diseases and those diseases that really affect soybeans throughout the year. We will learn about that coming up on the show. But first, it's time for a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. You're watching Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
On today's episode of Ag Matters PM, I am joined by Katie Jaeger of Syngenta. She is on the soybean seed care team at Syngenta, going to tell us about some exciting new technology that is going to help deal with fungal diseases in soybeans.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Katie Jaeger. We are at the Syngenta Media Summit in Greensboro, North Carolina. And Katie, you were telling us about some exciting new technology that Syngenta has been working on. Could you tell us kind of the groundwork for that, what's gone into developing it, and what you're excited about?
Of course. Good afternoon. Yeah, we're really excited to bring a new seed treatment molecule to the market for our soybean growers in the U.S. The molecule is Timerium technology. The brand will be Victrado, and the plan for launch is in 2025, so early next year.
And of course, it's always, like you talked about in your discussion here today, always changing with soybeans. They're being planted earlier and into those wet and cool conditions. So why is it so important to have that protection on the seed treatment? Of
course, you brought up a really great point. Yes, if you look at the national planting date average, it's being forward phased to mid-April. If you take a look at some of the recent publications, if you think about the condition in which we're planting these beans into, with it being earlier and earlier, you know, the last 2 out of 3 years, we've experienced some pretty wet weather. And if you think about specific to sudden death syndrome, which is a growing issue for us in the U.S., the causal organism for that disease is actually Fusarium virgiliforme. And the infection actually occurs very early in the season. It's a soil-borne disease, and it prefers those cooler conditions. And so we see it actually more prevalent in some of those first planted beans, and that's really where we see a benefit from the new product that we're bringing to market.
And could you tell us again as well why it is so important to deal with these problems that we have right now, soybean cyst nematodes, specifically sudden death syndrome? You mentioned some of those stats that go along with them and just exactly why they are such big problems.
Yeah, of course. Taking just the top 5 issues that our U.S. soybean growers facing, the number one issue is soybean cyst nematode. It makes up over 100 million bushels lost annually, equating to $1 billion or over $1 billion actually in net revenue, again on an annual basis. And if you take the top 5 factors, soybean cyst nematode is number 1, and sudden death syndrome is also among the top 5. But when you combine the next 4 combined, they are actually less than the damage and the net revenue decrease as a result of soybean cyst. So that's why bringing a product to market like Victrado will be so important to our customer base.
And going back to the molecule that started it, like we were talking about, Dale Ireland that you presented with here today, he also mentioned that this was unique because it had the end goal in mind when you were thinking about how to develop this. Could you explain how that process kind of worked, please?
Yeah, of course. So this molecule is an SDHI class of chemistry. It's a Frac 7, so I should probably start there. And when you look at the market today, there are 2 other products on the market. One, of course, is ours. So when you look at what is going to set the field performance of Timerium apart from the other products on the market, this is, first of all, as you mentioned, a unique and new molecule. And when you look at the receptor site as far as what we're going after, both with fusarium and nematodes. It's the same exact site. And this molecule is actually structure-based, so we knew the exact fit we were looking for when we designed the molecule, and it's the binding and the tightness of that fit that is resulting in a higher degree of potency, and then thus a higher degree of efficacy, much greater than any other molecule on the market.
And then what's the outlook for Victrado? Did you say it will be available for our growers in the state of Iowa next year?
Yeah, obviously registration pending. We're pre-registration at this point in time, but upon approval, yes, our target is to hit the 2025 planting season with this product.
Joined by Katie Jaeger at the Syngenta Media Summit. Katie, is there anything else you'd like to let our viewers, our listeners in the state of Iowa know about this exciting new development, or anything else you're working on?
Just that we have you in mind when it's designed. We know the pressures that our customers are facing. We know that we're planting into some pretty tough conditions, that planting populations are going down. It's putting more pressure on the seed to perform, and so we're doing everything we can to support that.
Katie, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you to Katie Jaeger of Syngenta for joining today's show. It is time now for our closing market summary, and we are joined now by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. At the end of another training day, we are joined now by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing market discussion. And Sam, earlier today, at least at midday, the grains were in the red for the most part. Is that how we closed here today?
It sure is. We finished lower across the board with corn, beans, and wheat all lower. Wheat was the main driver today, with wheat down 12 to 13 cents. Beans were down about 8 to 9, and corn down 3 to 4. So a negative day across the board here in the grains.
One of the things we talked about here earlier this morning in the office was the relationship between that jobs report and some of those economic numbers we got, and of course how that relates to the strength of the U.S. dollar. Was that weighing on the ag marketplace today?
It certainly seemed like that had something to do with it. The dollar was up strong, and then corn, beans, wheat down lower. Cattle markets, however, were a little bit stronger today, so had that going for us. But yeah, it was a little bit weaker trade today based off of that jobs report that put a lot of money back into the dollar.
And then, as you mentioned, wheat, unfortunately, was the leader in terms of the price movement to the downside. And oftentimes we do see that relationship where one commodity or several commodities of wheat, for example, can move one direction and bring some of the other commodities along with it. Was that the case today, or was it just a coincidence that all the commodities, I guess, essentially were headed the wrong direction?
I think that wheat definitely was a catalyst to the downside. However, it did seem like earlier this week there was a lot of short covering in the corn market, especially. If you look back a week ago, we saw a very positive price action in the soybeans last week leading into Monday's quarterly grain stocks report. And then this week, following the report, we saw a friendly corn number, and felt like the managed money was really covering shorts following that. And then here the past 2 days, volume has gone down dramatically. So that indicates that the managed money crowd maybe slipped out and are sitting on the sidelines for the time being, waiting to see what direction they want to head this time. So with wheat lower, corn and beans just decided to follow suit here as the day went on.
Let's flip over to the other side of the ag marketplace. And what did we see with the cattle and hog trade today?
So cattle, live cattle and feeder cattle were a little higher today. Hogs were slightly lower, down 25 cents on the December contract. Cattle has been trading very firm here recently. Yesterday, we saw a little bit of negative trade action, but then recovered here today. We're inching up near levels that we've seen here. We've got a downtrend drawn from, I believe, the March highs off of the July highs, and we're inching up very close to that downtrend line. So nearing contract highs here, not quite there yet, but definitely getting to a point where seeing a lot of strength in these markets. And if you're a cattle producer, probably not a bad idea to be locking in some profit margins here at these levels.
And I know we were very concerned there for a little bit about that longshoreman strike on the East Coast and the Gulf Coast. And fortunately, that has at least been resolved temporarily. They came to an agreement on wages and essentially, I guess, pushed this decision down the road a little bit because the deal will now be extended through, I believe it was the middle of January. So that's at least good news in the short term, isn't it? Because obviously we need those ports to be open and moving those products overseas right now in this busy time of year.
Absolutely. This is a time of the year where we're shipping out most of our soybeans. This is a busy time for us to be exporting soybeans. So having those ports open is very important. And this could have been something that could have been a much bigger and more catastrophic story had it gone much longer. But the fact that we were able to not necessarily get it resolved, but at least push the clock back till January 15th, definitely a good sign for the ag markets. And luckily didn't see much of an effect off of that here over the past couple of days.
He is Sam Trainor of agmarket.net, our guest here on the show. First time on the show for Sam, and thanks so much, Sam, for taking the time to join us here today. What's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Well, thanks for having me. Really appreciate being here. Best way to reach us here is visit us at our website, agmarket.net, or you can give us a call here in Normal, 1-800-779-1515.
Sam, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week and a great weekend.
You as well.
Thank you to Sam for joining today's show and with our closing market summary. It is time now to take a look at those closing numbers. Reminder, you can find those anytime on our website under the Markets tab at iowaagnet.com.
December corn closes down 3.5 at 424 3/4. November soybeans down 8 1/4 at 1037 3/4. December soybean meal down 2 even at 330.50. December soybean oil down 56 cents at 43.97. December wheat down 13 3/4 at 589 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 7 3/4 at 638.5. Kansas City hard red wheat down 13.5 at 598 even. December oats up 4.5 at 388 1/4. On the Merc, October live cattle up $1 even at 187 even. October feeder cattle up 65 cents at 249.62. October lean hogs down 15 cents at 84.02. October pork cutout unchanged at 93.92. Class 3 milk down 33 cents at 22.56.
Thank you to Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing market coverage today. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notification bell as well. That will let you know whenever we have any new video content available. Also, check out our morning, midday, and closing market podcast, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. And you can also listen to any episodes of Iowa Ag Matters that you miss by listening to our Iowa Ag Matters daily podcast. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.